Hello, beautiful people. Today is 14th of July. My name is Sahil and welcome to Newspaper Analysis. Friends, today we'll take a quote from B.R. Ambedkar, the intellectual polymath, the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, and the founding father of modern India. He says that equality may be a fiction, but nonetheless, one must accept it as a governing principle. Now, many a time, question onto the important personalities come, and earlier also even the question on Gandhi and Ambedkar's ideology with caste has came. Now, guys, often it is believed that Ambedkar propagated for the affirmative action into the favor of depressed classes, but here clearly he is boasting the principle of equality, which is needed to be accepted at all the cost, and everything such as a reservation, affirmative action, scholarship needs to abide the basic principle of equality, though onto the grounds of equity they could be allowed. So guys, a very powerful quote can use into the direct question on the comparison DS paper 1, onto the questions of political ideals GS paper number 2, as well as onto the essays along with certain ideological questions in GS paper number 4. Now the main question that I gave you yesterday, so question says that Indian cities need urgent reform in order to unlock their economic potential and transform quality of life. Make an assessment of recent initiatives of government in this regard. Now, first of all, as I say every day, you need to divide your answer in three parts, that is the introduction, body, as well as conclusion. Now, guys, first of all, we will talk about the potential of Indian cities, but as it is a 10 marker question, we can't devote too much of resource. So, talking about Indian cities, they have been called as engines of growth, and at the same time, they also play two critical role: the role of a mobilizer as well as the role of an allocator. So they mobilizes the resources such as human resource etc from the hinterland such as city towns and villages, and at the same time they allocate this human resource to the material and physical resource such as industries, factories and other ventures. However, now coming to the body part, the cities have not played the qualitative role for which they were envisaged. The life or the quality of life into the cities have become pathetic and miserable owing to lack reachability of the state to the citizens, particularly into the cities, and its manifestation can be seen into the breeding of the slums, inequality, unsanitary and unhygienic condition, etc. And in this particular regard, government had started various schemes. You can write the examples. For example, there is the Smart City Mission. Then there is the Amrut scheme, which is for the basic amenities. Then there is the Hriday scheme, particularly for the heritage cities. Then there is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which is for the slum rehabilitation as well as providing the proper housing facilities for the urban poor. Then there is National Urban Livelihood Mission. So guys, all these schemes have been there, and the problem is the poor implementation as well as non-systemic and timely evaluation of schemes onto the practical parameters. So outcome based approach is missing here. So guys, onto this particular line you can write the question. This is the bare framework of our answer. So that's it, and now let's take up the newspaper analysis. Now guys, let's take up the overview of the entire paper first. So first news here we can see that the Supreme Court has given the judgment on the Padmana Swami temple. So we'll see the issue here. Then guys, the investment has been announced into the Indian economic system. So we will see certain very good points which you can directly use in your exam. Then guys, the Iran has been dropped out of the Chabahar, which happens to be a cause of worry. So we will see the strategic angles involved here. Then moving forward, here the army's directive on Facebook ban has been questioned. So we will see the issues with respect to the Constitution of India. Then guys, moving forward, city nothing important has been given. Again into the regional section, important news have not been there. And then finally we'll reach to the editorial page. Now guys, this editorial talks about the in re-envisaging of the government institutions. So we will see certain important aspects here. Now guys, this particular topic talks about the failure of the Congress party and how their MLAs are not going with the whims of the party. So not important, a political article. Then guys, again the political article onto the political instability in Congress, not important for the exam. Now, guys, here the forecast of monsoon has been given by the IMD, but it will again change as monsoon will progress, so will not be relevant for your exam. Then, guys, here the politics of nepotism. So we will stake out certain important points with respect to our exam. We'll see what we can take from here. Then, guys, the politics of the Bahujan Samaj Party, Bhim Army, etc. has been given, not important for our exam. Then here there are countries which have not taken care of the virus and now they are suffering, so their numbers, their fatalities, not important for our exam actually. Then, guys, already all the news we will be taking, we had discussed it earlier. Then, guys, moving forward, nothing important has been given and only the political and such COVID related news have been there, not important for the exam. Then, guys, here we can see that indigenous aircrafts will be getting, so we'll see the indigenization of defense here. Then, guys, the India China 25-year deal has been given. Then now, guys, here the Pakistan has allowed that the consignments from Afghanistan can come through the Wagah border. However, India had not taken any action, so till that particular point we'll see that how it will move forward. Then, guys, showcase page, not important for our exam. Now on to the world page, nothing substantial has been given here. Guys, on to the business page, here we can see that the profitability of banks in danger, so briefly we will see this thing here. RBI bulletin has been released, but guys, it is nothing new. It comes most frequently, so not important for the exam in that respect. Then onto the sports page. Also, there is nothing important. And now let's take up the newspaper analysis in detail. Now, starting up, friends, here we can see that the Supreme Court has given its judgment into the Padmanabha Swami temple in Kerala. So, if you remember, just 2 days back, we had discussed this entire issue, but we'll revise it very quickly. So, Padmanabha Swami temple is in Kerala and it is made in Dravidian style, which is fused with the regional Chera style also. Now, guys, the temple is devoted to Lord Vishnu, who has been depicted in Anant Shayan posture, where the Lord Vishnu is depicted to take a sleep onto Shesh Nag. Now, guys, this temple historically has been managed as well as regulated by the royal family of Travancore. But after the last royal ruler of Travancore royal family passed away, a controversy erupted that who will manage this entire temple. Then, guys, according to the Kerala High Court, it was said that this entire property goes into the hand of the state government, who will manage the affairs as well as properties of the temple. And against this particular order, petition was filed into the Supreme Court, and now Supreme Court has finally given the decision. So, guys, Supreme Court has had said that the royal family of Travancore will continue to be the Shabiat or the manager of the property. Supreme Court noted that the Shabiat ship is a thing which will descend. It is being descended from the King Martand Varma, who rebuilt the temple and installed a new idol when it was destroyed by the fire in 1686. So, by descendants, now Shabiat ship will go to the present rulers or the royal family of Travancore. However, the day to day administration will be given to an administrative committee whose chairperson will be the district judge of Tiruvananthapuram, and apart from it, there will be the other members also, such as the nominees of the royal family, state government, union ministry of culture, and likewise. However, this is not that much important. Now, guys, in dealing with this entire thing, the center issue was laid onto the 26th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now, guys, the 26th Constitutional Amendment Act had taken back the privy purses which were given to the rulers. By the way, if you don't know, under the privy purses, the rulers which signed the instrument of accession with the government of India upon independence and merged their princely states with the Union of India, they were given a special status, and economic compensation was also to be paid to such rulers by the state. But through the 26th Constitutional Amendment Act, these privy purses were withdrawn. So here it was being said that as the privy purses have been withdrawn, The royal family cannot continue to hold a special status as being the controller of the property of the temple. Therefore, such control and management of property should be given to a state committee or to the state government. But guys, the Supreme Court said that the matter was raised when the last ruler were died. And in this particular direction, you are making an argument onto the basis of escheat and lapse. Now, guys, what is this escheat and lapse? See, whenever a person dies and if there is no nominee or no descendant of that person, then by the rule of escheat and lapse, such property goes into the control of the state. But here Supreme Court says that there are the descendants of the last ruler. So by applying the escheat and lapse, such property cannot go into the hand of the state. So the property will continue to be into the hand of the royal family, whereas the only administration is being given to the administrative committee. So guys, that's all about this particular issue. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, here we can see that a major blow to India's look west policy has came. Now, what has happened? Iran has dropped India out from the Chabahar rail project in which India was participating, and now Iran says that independently they will be going forward this entire project because India had caused substantial delay into the funding. Now, guys, we'll understand this entire issue. Now, friends, India, as a part of its Look West policy, had started a grand plan that was the Connect Central Asia. So, it is a policy by which India wants to make a connectivity with all the Central Asian countries along with the Afghanistan because the region is very crucial for the oil supplies and various other mineral supplies. Moreover, guys, India has also very ambitious plan, that is international north south transport corridor, and this INSTC will also not be successful if the link with the Central Asia is not successful. But there is a problem in going forward with the Connect Central Asia plan. The problem is that there is no connectivity or no accessibility to the entire Central Asia region. So India thought that what we will do, we will develop a port or into the Iran, that is the Chabahar port, and this port will serve two purposes. First of all, from here to Kandla, the distance is just 550 kilometers, and from Chabahar port to Kandla, we can secure all the oil supplies, mineral oil, natural gas, etc., which will be procured from the Iran as well as from the West Asia. Secondly, through the Chabahar port, we can also access the Afghanistan as well as the other Central Asian countries. Now, friends, the issue here is that Chabahar port will not give that much benefit if it is not connected to the hinterlands or to the hinter areas. So, what are the prominent hinterland areas? First of all, focus onto the map. You can find here the Zehdan into the Iran. After Zehdan, you can find the Zaranj, and then there is the Dileram. Now, guys, the Zaranj and Dileram are connected by a road which has been completed by the India. And from Zaranj to Zehdan also the road has been partially completed. And last mile connectivity was from Zehdan to Chabahar. And onto this, the India had said that they will be laying the rail network. And MOU onto this thing was signed in 2016, and this was the last link, that was the Zehdan to Chabahar, which now Iran had cancelled from India, and now Iran is saying that they will independently be going forward with this. As IRCON or Indian Railway Construction Limited, which had signed the MOU in 2016, has not provided the funding. So, guys, it is a big strategic blowout to India because you just think that in the absence of Indian funding, if India will not get the complete accessibility from Zehdan to Chabahar, then what will be the benefit of the Dileram to Zehdan, which is being majorly pursued by the India? Moreover, guys, the Chabahar port's last mile connectivity was also essential because nearby here you can see the Gwadar port. It is being developed by the China. So just in a response, we were building the Chabahar, and the last mile connectivity was very much crucial. And in between all of this, the biggest blow came where the Iran and China has signed a comprehensive plan for cooperation for next 25 years, in which the $400 billion investment will be made in Iran by the China. And in this investment, the China will get even a larger role into the Chabahar, and very conveniently China will sideline the India. Moreover, guys, apart from this, other infrastructure projects such as the refinery, involvement into the duty free zone, etc., are also being taken by the China. Now, here India might have a reason that why the IRCON failed to provide the $400 million funding which was promised, and the reason could be the fear of sanctions by the USA. But guys, USA had already said that the Chabahar port is exempted and India can go forward, but still the project has not been taken. And now China has made a very strategic move. Now, guys, just remember the string of pearls policy, where the China is systematically containing India by building the infrastructure around the India, and into the string of pearls, one more pearl has been added by dropping off India and signing of the strategic deal with the Iran. So, guys, these are the impending issues in this particular direction. I hope you have understood it, and now we'll move to next. Now, guys, just here for the reference, we can see that the Google has said that they will be investing $10 billion or nearly 75,000 crore rupees in Indian economy in coming 5 to 7 years. Now, guys, this was a much needed thing into Indian economy, because you know that due to the pandemic as well as the restrictions by the FRBM, government needs to control their expenditure. Therefore, there is not much scope for the public investment into the economy. Thus, only way out was the private investment. But you know that return on investment into the past few years have been such that the private sector was very much apprehensive. And now, into this background, the investment by the Google will be providing the much needed impetus to Indian economy. Now, further, the four areas of investment have been mentioned here. And guys, it is a ready made answer. Whenever you are talking about the need of investment, say that these are the four areas where we need investment. Open endedly, we will be using it. Number one is the digitization that will enable affordable access and information for every Indian in their own language. So, not only digitization, but digitization in vernaculars is needed. Then, the second one is building products and services that are deeply relevant to India's unique needs, so custom tailored products. Then, the third one is empowering businesses on their digital transformation journey, because the future of the cashless economy depends here only. Then the fourth one is the leveraging technology and AI for social good in areas such as health, education, and agriculture, because you know that into the times of COVID-19, the health resilience have been questioned. So since so many years, agriculture is working onto the primitive technologies, and education system has also been lagged behind, and the rote learning has become the standard. So here the technology can play much important role. So, guys, these are the four areas where India needs investment, and utilize them in your answer. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, we'll see a constitutional issue here, but before it, the background. So, guys, recently the Director General of Military Intelligence had issued a notification or a directive where the army personnels were banned to use 89 applications, which included the social media sites such as the Facebook as well as Instagram. And in direction of this army's order, an army officer has challenged this directive as being unconstitutional into Delhi High Court. So it has been said that the such directive violates the fundamental right because the article number 19 provides the right to speech and expression, and denying a person to express their opinion on Facebook, Instagram, etc. is violation of article number 19. Moreover, under article number 21, the privacy has been also given to the citizen, and such kind of bans try to intrude into the private life. Moreover, it has also been said that the entire order is not in sync with the democratic values, rather, it reflects an authoritarianism because the soldiers' expression as well as their grievances are being curtailed. Now, guys, into the recent years, it has been seen that various army personals, especially the soldiers, have vented out their grievances regarding the treatment, diet, and all these kind of things. And thus, here it is being said that rather than providing a solution to their grievances, the directive altogether aims to curb so that they can't even put forward their problems. So, it has been said that it is a violation of various constitutional guarantees. Moreover, guys, there is one more concern in this particular angle, and that is a sociological angle. So, as the army personals are posted into the far flung areas and they don't have any opportunity to connect with their families or their friends, so there these social media sites act as a virtual world for them where they can keep in constant touch. So, this is one side, and there is one more side of the story. So, friends, you might have read about the article number 33 of the Fundamental Rights, Part 3, where it has very clearly been stated that the application of fundamental rights to the forces, which includes the army personnel, can be curtailed. So in that particular direction, the issues which has been mentioned here might not hold the ground when the constitutional scrutiny under article number 33 might be carried, but it will be immature to come at any conclusion at right this point because the matter is sub judice. So we need to see as in what direction the court goes, but these are all issues here. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, friends, we are into the editorial section, and the first editorial talks about reforming the governance structure in order to bring the qualitative enhancement into the life of people. Now, guys, into the times of pandemic, we had seen failure of institutions, and due to the failure of these institutions, governance as a whole has been compromised. Now, before going into the institutional failure and how they have backfired, let's look into the nature of institutions. So, the institutions are the entities which have been created to make the human civilization moves more prosperous and to solve the conflicts and to bring the welfare. For example, the institution of a formal parliament or modern parliament just came in existence in last 400 or 500 years. Before that, there was no formal parliaments, and it had shown us that what could be the benefits of the representative democracy. Then, guys, the multilateral institutions such as the UN, WTO, etc., had also existed only since last 80 to 100 years, and even new institutions are being made every day. So, guys, though institutions were good, but there was a problem that institutions were kept into the different silos, and no attempt were made for making the interlinkages or to making the interactions between the institution. Now we had seen into the pandemic that when the lockdown was instituted to contain the health institutions to preserve them, the economic institutions has backfired. Even health is made up of different institutions. For example, primary care is one institution, maternal care is other institutional. So guys, here when we focused onto the covid or to the infection, then the maternal health has been suffered, the infant health has been suffered. There have been the ignorance of the people who were suffering with other chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, etc. So guys, the problem is there at the systemic level. Moreover, not only the institutions are flawed, rather the developmental strategies or developmental goals which we adopt, their adoption is also faulted. For example, take the example of the sustainable developmental goals, where the 17 goals have been taken. Now, for every goal, government is bringing the different strategy, but that is a flawed approach because all the goals are not in silo, rather they are connected to each other. For example, the poverty, the ecology, the economy, as well as the resilience, all will come together as a part and parcel, but that thing is not being taken care of. Moreover, guys, with respect to the implementation of goals, with respect to the working of the institution, the localized approach has also been ignored, which have been emphasized by the thinkers such as J.C. Kumarappa, Mahatma Gandhi, as well as other prominent thinkers. And by localization, we means that the policy for the different regions should be based on to that region's precedence, history, way of life of people into that area. And not only it should be localized, rather the locals should be given much role for the policies, for the institution making of their region. Now guys, just take one example. If we want to work for the environment, then the strategies for Kerala will be different, the Ladakh strategy will be different. For example, Kerala might not be needing the assistance for the female feticide, but Haryana might be needing the assistance into the female feticide. So the topic structure and all of them needs to be localized. And here the functionary or the government official also needs to be localized, and that localized functionary can be an IS officer who knows that how the policies needs to be worked onto the ground. Now guys, the district collector's position was conceived during the time of British India, when the Indian civil services were established, and Britishers wanted that the district collector should perform the role such as collection of revenue and maintaining the law and order. However, now their roles have been changed and the welfareist role have been given to them, and they are now not the collectors, but they are the district deliverers. So deliverers of the welfare, deliverers of the government schemes, services, etc. But these district collectors or deliverers have not been given the substantial autonomy which they need in order to make the government schemes more specific. There often tends to be the political interference, executive interference, which needs to be removed. Moreover, guys, there is also one more issue that, as I told you, that government thinks that for every problem there needs to be separate action. So, therefore, even for the minutest things, the multiple schemes have been launched, but they are only making the matters complicated. So here also, when in rethinking the institutions, we need to rethink the structure of the schemes, and they need to be clubbed, they need to be converged onto the basis of issue that they are taking up. And by following all these localized approaches and empowerment at the grassroots level, we had seen that Kerala, Vietnam, Taiwan, etc., had shown greater resilience into the times of pandemic. So, guys, it is high time that the governance structure, institutions, and participation needs to be rethought for the 21st century. So, that's it. Now, we'll move to next. Now, friends, this particular article talks about nepotism and its inclination into the politics. However, political angles such as the Gandhi and Nehru family into the politics will not be that much relevant because such type of controversial contemporary topics are not asked into the UPSC. Now, friends, recently the debate on nepotism was reignited after the death of Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput. It was said that always Bollywood has been biased against the outsiders and had given preference to the kids of the stars. But here it has been said that treating nepotism just as a biasness and a binary of insider versus outsider is a very simplistic notion and should not be limited in that particular thing. Now, guys, first of all, if we talk about nepotism, then the roots of nepotism are very much evidented into our social system. In the social system, the kul or the family has always decided that what will be the occupation of a particular person, not into the family but also in terms of his professional life. For example, the son of a Brahmin will be the Brahmin, the son of a Kshatriya will be Kshatriya. So it is nothing but a way of nepotism which is coming. Moreover, guys, into the system of our Indian society, always the precedence is to be given to the family. First of all, there is a family, after that there comes the caste, and at the last there comes the merit if it happens. So in that particular context, nepotism manifest. Now take the example of Bollywood. So a big producer decides that what his son will be doing, he'll be going into the films. After that, he gives preference to him because the family comes first. But guys, there is a problem that all the debates which are centered onto the nepotism, they are missing one fundamental thing, that is the notion of inequality. Entire nepotism is centered on insider versus outsider. But what about the inequality which is coming? Now, guys, if we talk about India, in our country, the top 1% holds 4 times more wealth than the later 71%. Thus, the nepotism comes out of inequality. So, the opposition should also be of inequality, which is very much rampant. Now, guys, moving a little bit away from the Bollywood. So, then issue of nepotism is also very much serious into the politics. Take example of the Anna Hazare led anti-corruption movement, and also take the example of a party in power, that is the BJP. But guys, here the thing is that the fundamental pretext of nepotism is not the moral ground. Rather, their issue is to preserve the Hindutva ideology in the name of removing the nepotism. The hardcore fundamental leaders are to be given a place. Guys, these are not my opinion, these are what article says. Now, see, there have also been linkages between the Bollywood as well as politics. So, in 2013, the political Hindu ideologist started a campaign against the nepotism into the politics, that is, the control of the Nehru Gandhi family. The Bollywood also joined in. But 6 years down the line, we had seen that neither the Bollywood has changed, neither the politics had actually changed. Even into the ruling government also, the nepotistic tendencies can be seen. Will not be using any names here. Moreover, further links have also been made that how politics used two things, one nepotism and other is the anti-corruption, as a plank to remove the ruling elites and to make their own place. For example, in 2011, there was huge protest, huge demonstration on the corruption is going on, but since 2014, they have not been very much active. Is it the case that in 2011 only the corruption came and in 2014 it got simply vanished? No, just the media coverage got vanished. So, guys, many a times nepotism's removal is also inflicted with certain other corruptions, and that thing also needs to be kept in mind. So, an alternative viewpoint and I think a fresh point has been provided. So, guys, that's all about this article. Now we'll move to next. Friends, here in very brief, we can see a news which could be used as an example of indigenization by defense, and maybe there could be something on this line in prelims. However, the expectation is not that much for the prelims. Now, guys, we have aircraft carrier, one aircraft carrier we have, that is INS Vikramaditya, which we have taken on to the lease from the Russia. However, by 2020, we will be getting one more aircraft carrier, that is Vikrant. And for the aircraft carrier, we need the aeroplanes which can land and can take off from the aircraft carrier. So, right now on INS Vikramaditya, we are using MiG 29Ks, and as the new aircraft carrier Vikrant will also be coming, government had earlier floated a tender for 57 carrier based jets. But now it has been said that DRDO has successfully developed the twin engine deck based fighters, and they are being developed, will be developed by the Hindustan Aeronauticals Limited. And as they will be indigenously developed, all the budgetary constraints as well as requirements of navy could also be kept in mind. So, guys, how it is being decided that the tender for the aircraft procurement should be reduced down, so that as now we can use our own indigenous aircrafts. Now, guys, it has a large number of implications, because we recently we had seen that a report by the SIPRI, that is Stockholm International Peace Research Institution, India is one among the largest procurers of the weaponry, which has major implications. First of all, over dependence onto the foreign countries for the spare, which becomes even more dangerous into the times of war. And secondly, there is also implication onto the worsening forex deficit because of the large payments which are needed to be made. So in all that directions, this is a very good step, could be used as a reference. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, here it has been said that the pandemic will be bringing even more crisis for the banks. So, the profitability as well as asset quality into the Indian banks as well as ASEAN banks will be worsened. And this report has been given by the Moody's. Earlier also we had seen that Moody's had downgraded the India's credit rating because of the weak prospects. Now, guys, as per the latest part of Moody's report, it has been said that even by the government's intervention, the impact could be minimized, but still the impact will be there. Now, guys, it is being said that even the profitability and asset quality on those banks will also be impacted which have been good in 2019. For example, banking system of Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, they have the best asset quality, that is below 2%, but they will also be impacted. So, guys, this is just for the reference. When you are talking about the negative impacts of pandemic, you can use the name of the Moody's report. So, friends, that's it, and now we'll move to the question section. Now, friends, please pause the video and try to answer the question. So, first question is with respect to the NatGrid. Please read the statement and identify the correct code. Now, the question number 2 is with respect to the recent frequent occurrences of earthquake into the northeast. So, please identify the right code. Now, question number 3 is with respect to the advantages of direct seeding method. So, please identify the right code. Now, guys, the question number 4 is with respect to the European Union. So, please consider the right code. And now the mains question for today. So the mains question says that the model of governance suited to Indian condition is meeting the local demand using local resources and by including local people critically examine. So it is a GS2 10 marker question. So guys, please use it and try to use the examples as many as you can. And tomorrow we'll discuss its framework. So guys, that's it for today. I hope you are liking our effort. Thank you so much.